We had a story we wanted to take a closer look at, and it comes from the Futurum Group because last week saw the release of a big new report around cybersecurity. Our Futurum Research Division says that the market is going to be growing by 11.6% per year for the rest of the decade. And by then, it should be worth nearly $300 billion. In a quote for the linked article, Fernando Montenegro says that cybersecurity is a cornerstone of the boardroom and a key part of enterprise risk management strategies. And additionally, the report has a lot of great suggestions and information about which areas of security need to be addressed by organizations in the coming years. Now, Al, you and I both touch security quite frequently because, well, it's part of everybody's job now. But I was wondering if you had some thoughts about this report and kind of what it might mean for the wider security industry.
Well, the report is some nice in-depth analysis of market segregated across different geographic regions, including the APAC region where I live, but also segmented by industry and then by software delivery mechanisms. So it's a pretty comprehensive piece of research, and that foundation and lots of backwards looking also helps with the forwards looking. I always like predictions that are based on some sort of views of the past as well as some insights and other changes. Uh, Definitely, the idea that the security market is going to grow shouldn't be a surprise for anyone. We know that there is no reduction in risk going on around us. The internet continues to be a dangerous place, and your employees continue to be a significant risk to you as well. So, seeing areas of risk management as a part of the overall cybersecurity approach being a place that the report is pointing towards, that Fernando and Krista case pointing towards risk management and identity management as being important. I think the identity management one is really crucial because as we're seeing more and more use of hybrid cloud and multi-cloud, the need to identify somebody uniformly across all of those different locations where they might act is really vital in order to get a consistent security stance. You have to know the actors, who's taking what action. So that focus on both risk management and identity management is absolutely strong. Uh, in terms of delivery mechanisms, that's one of the interesting findings in here is the growth has been a lot in cloud delivered um, security and cybersecurity tools. There are a number of places where having these tools as a managed service running in a secured cloud location is very beneficial, but also, as I mentioned, that's the hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. It makes sense to deliver these your cybersecurity solutions through those hybrid and multi-cloud locations. Of course, you have to deliver security in all of the locations you're operating, not just in the cloud. And so, on premises deployment and software deployment into maybe public cloud instances is absolutely in there as well. Uh, there's some advice in here for both vendors wanting to get out in front of this and be part of that 10% compounding growth for the rest of the decade, as well as to end customer organizations who need to consider really planning for an increase in the complexity and cost of their security implementations over time. Tom, you're very much deeply into the security of security with your security field day events. What is your view on this lovely report from Futurum?
So I love the fact that we went out and we found a lot of decision makers who are talking about the things that they're happening. One of the things in the report that I thought was really impactful was how impactful security events are. We think about this like, I've seen news stories about how important it is to have quantum resistant encryption now because the likelihood of RSA being completely broken in the next few years is higher than it needs to be, and this and this and this. And then I go look at the report and things that people are really worried about, things that have had the most impact, cloud security problems. Like buckets not being secured properly, or someone losing their credentials. Good old fashioned ransomware. Hey, we do ransomware stories all the time around here, right? Something that you probably think about, but you don't really think about: social engineering and phishing. Like, look, I got an email today that came in with the right email address, but just something felt off about it, right? It's like, go over here and click here, and obviously you did this, and you're like, huh. something doesn't feel right. And so I start doing the research, and I even went over, I did whatever security research you're supposed to do. I typed in the address of the service that I was using as opposed to clicking on any of the links in the email. Sure enough, it was bogus, but it stands to reason that most of the people who are not super security savvy in your organization might have fallen for that. But how do you teach that? Like, how do you teach people to secure S3 buckets properly? How do you prevent them from exfiltrating data? Like these, as sophisticated as the attacks get, like believe me, when we do the research for these rundowns, like there was one the other day. It was like, well, we can pick out your password based on the acoustics of the keyboard that you're typing on. Okay, that's like some James Bond level stuff. And I always go back to the XKCD of like, using polymorphic encryption to guess the guy's password. And then the next panel, it's like, let's just beat him with a wrench until he gives us the password. Like that's what we're dealing with here. It's low tech, it's effective. And these are the kinds of controls that need to be put in place. And that's one of the things that the report goes into detail about, as you've mentioned, is the interaction of things like IAM with cloud security and data protection and endpoint protection, because we are long past the days of antivirus. If you think that people still run antivirus on their machines, you need to read this report because it's really EDR, endpoint detection and response. And even that is kind of an old way of looking at it because we moved into new areas where the endpoints work with the rest of the infrastructure to prevent these things from happening. I mean, if I'd have had the ability to prevent code execution on my laptop, 15 years ago when I was still doing this for a living, my life would have been a whole lot easier. And so I think it's valuable for people who are kind of curious about where the direction of the market is headed. Should definitely take a look at this report. I know Krista and Fernando and the rest of the team over at the Futurum Research Division have put a lot of effort into this, and you're going to be seeing a lot about it over the next few weeks. So do yourself a favor, go register for the report. The link will be in the show notes. Take a look through it, and I promise that you won't be disappointed with any of the information that you find.